All right, guys, today I'm very lucky to have this amazing woman named Kelly Hogan. And yes, I sort of heard about her a few years back, didn't know much about her until she actually reached out to me on Instagram. And I was like, whoa, you are so, Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. Uh,
Hey, thanks, Stephanie.
you are so positive. I think that this, as a I don't know if I call it a community because I think that people need to come together more. But in this whole movement,
Yeah.
I think you are probably the most positive and just really positive person that I've ever encountered, period.
Oh, thanks.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know, your energy's up, you're kind, you've got a good heart, you work your ass off. Oh my God. I don't know how you're able to do it all. You have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And you guys, I just wanted her to, we're interviewing each other. So you can check out my interview on her YouTube channel, which is just Kelly Hogan or what? No, no, no. You call it, what do you call your channel?
My zero carb life.
My zero carb life. Look how dumb I am.
You're good.
Um, but my audience knows, like, I don't like, I'm so behind on everything, picking up horse crap. But I digress. I would love you to tell your story, like I have everyone else, real people telling their real stories. And I thought it'd be better in story form rather than an interview because I'm getting bored with interviews.
Yeah.
So I might chime in, but I'm gonna change our size so people focus on you and not me.
Pow.
Whoop,
Okay.
whoop, whoop, pow!
There we go.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
thank
What?
you, Stephanie. I'm really excited to talk to you. We had a great phone call the other day, and then we had a good chat on my channel, and then I was pumped that you invite me to yours too. So my story started. I mean, I always had some like weight struggles growing up, but then my 20s was when it like hit the fan. I went off to college and gained a lot of weight because they gave us these little cards. It was called a cat card. And it was all you can eat, unlimited meals, and all of the cafeterias near my dorm were buffet style. So all I knew being a child of the 80s and 90s was just don't eat the fat. Of course. So I was having skim milk and cereal all the time, and it was unlimited. I could just study in the cafeteria and go get my skim milk and cereal. And I was doing such a good job and have some fruit because we know that's healthy. And meanwhile, doing that, I gained about 50 pounds. And I got married really young, pretty soon after college, and then immediately gained some more weight. And then health problems started coming up. I was getting boils, which if people have never had them, oh my gosh, it starts off looking kind of like an ingrown hair or zit. It does not clear up. It would get staph infections. I would have to go have them cut open, drained. They were on my rear end, my thighs, my legs. It was embarrassing. It felt like a hygiene thing, but I didn't know what else to do. I was reading all the time. Nobody online. I couldn't find anything that said diet about it at all. Never suspected. Well, I had this really old doctor named Dr. Dunlap. He was my dad's doctor too, Dr. Benjamin Dunlap. And he did not play. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He had lanced several of these places and he said, "Well, Miss Hogan, I suspect we'll just keep having to do this until you lose about 100 pounds or one of us dies." I was like, I cried. I said, "I've tried so hard." And I really had. I mean, I really had. I tried running. I had tried, and which is very hard to do when you're overweight and have boils, but I gave it a go. I had tried cutting out calories and cutting out fat, and none of it had worked. And then he said, "You're inflamed, and it's all the sugar and carbs." I was like, I have heard of carbs. I didn't know. Well, first of all, I was 25 and it was 2004. So Dr. Atkins had written books. I just hadn't read them. And I had no idea. So he had to really explain what is a carb. I literally asked this man, and my dad later said, "Now, a potato, is a potato a carb?" Yes, dear. It's a carb. So I started from real basics. But I took his advice pretty hardcore. He told me eat all the meat I wanted, eat cheese if you want. he said leafy greens are not going to kill you if you want to eat leafy greens and some low carb vegetables. So I didn't like greens, but I kept green beans and pickles and meat, eggs, and some cheese and diet soda. That's what I did. And for weight loss and inflammation, that was incredibly better for me than the cereal and skim milk. And so I didn't have it all figured out based on that conversation with him, but it got me closer, especially in regard to weight loss. Then in 2009, I met like a carnivore, a real group of carnivores online. They called themselves Zeroing In on Health. Charles Washington was the head of that group. And they told me, I told them that I was doing great, but I still had cravings. And they found out I was drinking diet soda. So we cut all that out and the cravings went away. And they also found out I was not prioritizing fat, which they did in 2009, really prioritize fat. They said about 80% of calories should come from fat. And that's what we did. But that was 2009. Somewhere between 2009 and 2022, I think that message got a little lost on myself and some other carnivores. But that's where we started. And then I really did feel better in 2009. And so that's where my journey started. I really wanted at that point to up my fat because I wasn't having a menstrual cycle and I wanted kids. And once I added back the fat, about 7 months later, my cycle came back and I got pregnant with my daughter, Julia, and she's 11 now. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks. As far as
so during your pregnancy, you were eating this carnivore style of diet, but you had cut out the diet soda at that point.
Yeah. So when I met the carnivores, day one, October 23rd, 2009, when I met these carnivores online, and they said, you know, the reason you're having the cravings is all these diet sodas. That was the last day I've had a diet soda. And for me, it was like, well, it took 3 days of, I want my Diet Dr. Pepper so bad. And then after the third day, I felt what they all kept talking about, the freedom. And I'd never felt that before. Before it was like, hey, I feel skinny, but I do not feel freedom. And then after the sweet tastes were gone, that was when that was the magic for me. And also increasing fat at that point was helpful. Not to the point that I am right now, but I was having fatty steaks. And that was pretty good for me. I felt great. And then my cycle came back and I got pregnant. I wanted to stay on the exact diet that I was when I was pregnant because it had helped me so much. But Stephanie, I had horrible meat aversions for my first trimester. If it smelled, looked, or tasted like a steak, I could not take it. So I did do a lot of burger patties with cheese. And I was not doing dairy until I got pregnant at all. With cheese and some hot sauce or mustard because it just had to kind of cover up the taste.
I think every mother is relating to you because you have all kind of specific cravings and like if you smell a certain food, you can't. So
it was not going in my mouth. No. A mustard was very helpful to me in hot sauce. And I have never I hated hot sauce before I got pregnant, but 3 out of 3 times it was like before I even took a pregnancy test, if I was craving tapatio and Tabasco, I just knew, oh, I'm pregnant again. So I would put that on everything. I did have I had some heartburn issues, but it was a lot of hot sauce. Other than that, I had a really good pregnancy all 3 times. I never vomited once.
Well, vaginally birth, no C-sections.
Oh, no, I did. I did have to have a C-section. Although I think if I had had a different doctor, I am pretty sure they could have figured it out. My daughter was trying very hard to be born breech, and they couldn't get her to turn. Okay. And, there are some doctors that will work very hard to literally try to get up in there and turn them. This one didn't. And it was like, ma'am, we're not sure if the baby is going to tolerate this for long. There was nothing, looking back, there was never any sign of like her heart not going well. I think it could have been done, but I wasn't even a mom yet. She wasn't born. I was nervous. And when they said C-section, I was like, okay, do it. Do what you got to do.
That was best, yeah.
Yeah. So I did end up having C-sections. And after the first one, they just kept having them, but the kids were healthy and I did well and I wasn't sick through pregnancy. I just did have the aversions for 13 weeks. And every time it was like first trimester ended, then steak was so good again.
So, when in terms of weight gain, how was your weight gain and weight loss? Not that I'm a big, huge proponent of weight gain and weight loss. I'm just want to center around your children. How
Yeah.
did that go?
With the first pregnancy, I did not allow them to tell me my weight at the doctor. I was very triggered by seeing the scale go up, even pregnant. I knew I couldn't handle it. Like I said, I'd been obese for a long time, and then I lost the weight. And the idea of watching it go up, I said to my doctor, there was a sticky note on the chart. Unless there's a problem, don't talk about it. And she was very cool with that. She's like, weight gain is normal, but we don't have to discuss it. So I don't know. By the third one, I was very comfortable with finding out. I was just mentally in a better place. And so I know that I gained about 28 to 30 pounds with that pregnancy. And the weight came off much quicker with the second and third than it did with the first. But I would say it came off slower with baby one, but I was also at a pretty healthy, normal weight. Nobody would have looked at me and been like, oh my gosh.
Oh no, yeah. Then how was breastfeeding on carnivore?
Yeah, very good. I do get asked that a lot because some people, their doctors and lactation specialists will say you need a lot of carbs to make breast milk.
Some people just don't produce milk
Yeah.
on anything that's low carb because they don't know how to do it right. And so, they're not in ketosis, they're having hypoglycemia, whatever. They're having a bunch of weird symptoms.
Yes.
Okay, so continue your
Yeah,
journey.
the things I found really helpful with breastfeeding, a lot of water. I did find more fat to be very helpful in making, go figure, nice fatty breast milk. People at the hospital, when I would pump, because sometimes I would get ahead and pump, they actually commented that they had never seen such yellow. I know this is a little gross if you're not
No, I mean, this
in
is
that space, like golden. They call it like, they're like, your breast milk is like golden yellow. And you could, if it sat for a little bit, it would have like a fat cap on it,
oh
which I
wow.
thought, I know.
Hmm.
A little gross, but a little cool. And
Yeah, not gross at all. It's normal.
okay, good. And
Yeah.
then, so fat and water were very helpful. But the third thing was, I think a lot of mamas feel that they're not giving enough to their baby. So they panic and then go and get some formula to supplement. And what I found to be really useful is just let the baby keep asking, demanding, sucking. Even if nothing, and they're like, but nothing's coming out. That's right. Your body has to be signaled that you don't have enough, that your baby grew. Baby got bigger. We need
Mm,
more milk. And so
mm.
instead of then going and just grabbing something from a bottle, let the baby keep asking, and my body would figure it out. But I get that panicky feeling of, but my baby's crying and I don't have enough. And it's like, yeah, that's an uncomfortable moment.
Oh yeah.
That is necessary to make more milk.
It's interesting to hear these stories about people, because I don't have kids. It's always really interesting for me to hear all the different stories between woman to woman. And then you've been on strict carnivore through 3 pregnancies. Okay, so how old is your oldest and then your youngest?
I have an 11-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old girl.
Okay, what a perfect combo.
Thanks.
And
They're really cute.
I see them on your social media. They're so cute, but you're very beautiful. So I can see where they get their looks from.
Thank you very much. I'm going to show you a picture real quick just because I'm a mom and it has to be done. Okay.
Yeah,
See? Aren't they sweet?
so cute.
Okay.
You have really cute kids.
Thank you.
Oh
I'm
wow.
proud of you.
Okay, so tell me more about your journey as a mom and in general.
Yeah. So when I was pregnant, one of the biggest fights my husband and I ever had, I was like barely pregnant at this point, maybe 12 weeks. And we were actually at the bar of a restaurant, and we were sitting there eating, and I decided to go ahead and break the news that I really don't want our kids having grains and sugar. Like no sugar, no grains. And he's like, I understand why this matters to you because he was there. We met when I was only 16. He was 14. So he'd been there through all of that. Well, I mean, we've been together forever. And that's when I got married. I was 23. So yeah, long time together. And he knew why this would matter to my health. But he was not prepared that I wasn't going to let the kids have candy or sugar, just be, I guess, normal kids. And so that night, he's like, I really think that if they're if they're out at a party, you're not going to just let them have some candy and Cheetos and, and I don't think I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, knowing, like watching inflammation levels, not just in myself at that point, but being online and working with people for so many years and seeing what sugar addiction does. And I was a public school teacher for 21 years. So I know kids and I know their attention spans are shot. I know that kids can't even sit for 5 minutes hardly, and that I really feel it's very connected to diet. So I was passionate that night, but he, not being a carnivore, was also feeling very passionate that the kids should be able to go trick-or-treating. We had our sides. And I was like, look, I finally came down to, I was petty. I was like, look, I'm their mom. And I'm not going to buy sugar for them. After that night, we worked it out. And once the kids came, then the next struggle was like with grandparents, because the way they knew to show love was the same way they showed love to me. And that was with treats. My grandmother would bake me every cake and pie known to man, and that's just how she loved on me. It was very hard for her to not do that for my kids. I guess that was probably the hardest part, convincing my husband and the grandparents. But they really...
On both sides, or just on
my side and my husband's side? Yeah, because even though my parents had seen what I had been through, they still to this day feel like I am, I think, like a special snowflake that this even works. Like, we know this has worked for you, but we know that's not what most people need to do. Like, it's frustrating, but I'm really blessed because on both sides, they really did love me enough to be very respectful. And I don't think anybody was doing it because they necessarily thought they needed to for the kids' sake, but they were accommodating because they loved me. I mean, it's really, really kind. And I've told them through the years how much it matters. But now my parents are more low carb. My husband doesn't eat a bunch of junk either. He will have bread sometimes, but he knows when he sees his weight go up, he cuts back on processed foods and sugary junk. He knows. He's just not as motivated because he's not desperate like I was. If he's ever desperate, I think he'll do it too.
I think a lot of couples have this situation where one is so desperate and they really want to change, and the other one is like, I'm fine, I don't need to change anything. And then slowly over time, if you stick to it like you did, they'll slowly start to bend a little bit your direction. They have no choice, especially if you're doing, shopping, cooking.
Yeah. And through the years, as my diet has changed, he has definitely lost weight versus, I was looking at our engagement photos the other day. We were both so much heavier back then. So it's cool to see that just his small changes, he didn't have to, yet cut out all plants or anything crazy like that. Like, I had to be pretty extreme, but he didn't have to, but he's still getting benefits.
What about your kids? How are they dealing with the fact that they're not eating all of the processed junk like other kids in school? Because they're all really young.
Yes.
Young enough and old enough and young enough to want the bad food, and for them to understand that they're missing out on it. So how does that work?
Well, because they didn't grow up eating it, their first food was super fatty pureed meat is what I did for the first baby. But then I learned about baby-led weaning, where you literally take like a fatty rib and lay it on the tray. And as soon as they're old enough to shove it in their mouth and suck on it, ta-da, you're eating meat. Like, it was so much easier. I just didn't know that with the first one. So I was pureeing, pouring fat and everything in their food. So they developed a very strong love of meat really young. It's all they had for a while. And then I would introduce like a little squash or something with it. But they loved meat, and they're all three huge meat eaters. So thankfully, that has not been a problem. But they didn't really have much choice.
I know, right? How are they on fat?
Oh, they call it, this will gross some people out, but I also love the squishy parts. They call it the squishy. They'll be like, oh, look, I got a lot of squishy on mine. They love the fat on the meat. They love ribs, pork belly, whether it's flanking ribs, short ribs, If ribeye has a lot of marbling and fat on it, they are the most excited. Yes, they love fat. And I was so excited recently to hear that Dr. Elizabeth Bright has written a book for adolescents, especially girls, on the importance of having so much fat for their hormones. And my 11-year-old, we're not there yet, but I'm seeing some changes. I think we're close. And I just feel like
Close.
for her, hormonally, I'm so happy that she loves fatty meat and eggs and butter. They have already learned that if they're not feeling good, and that's normally like, I just feel kind of bummed, they will literally go to the fridge and pull out a stick of butter and just start eating slices of butter. And they know it perks them up. They just feel better, which I think is so cool. Oh, you ask about school. When they were really little in preschool and the kids would have birthday parties all the time. I have a cake that I bake that is eggs. It's egg whites and egg yolks, but you separate them. But it's the whole eggs plus cream cheese, heavy cream. That's it. I sometimes add a splash of vanilla extract. No sweeteners. So it's really high in fat, actually. And I would send them with a Tupperware container with a slice of that called Oopsie cake. It's based on the Oopsie bread from years ago. And they love that so much. But that was kind of a pain in the butt. Every time a kid in class has a birthday, now I've got to make an Oopsie cake. And now they really don't care. The kids are like, you do not, they don't need me to send something. They're fine. They just don't eat it. And I do not have to set up a rule. Some people think I have to be like, no, don't you eat. I don't. They've never had it and they don't want it. And even the smell of it, they say is gross. If they get a really sweet piece of fruit, they say it is too sweet and too gross. They don't have that craving for a sweet taste because they didn't develop it. Now, this is all one big great experiment for me. It might be that someday they eat some candy and decide, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But as for right now, I don't have to make them not eat it. They just don't want it.
I think that's so interesting as a complete experiment with children who are born on this type of lifestyle. Like you said, they were raised on, like, so once you wean them off of the teat, then what were some of the first foods you gave them?
I would make a big fatty beef roast. This is when I was pureeing meats. Almost every single, well, I could make several jars. So every 3 days or so, I would make a very fatty chuck roast in the crock pot. And then I would put it in the blender and puree it and make sure to add some of the liquid and the fat in there. And that was their baby food because I tasted the store baby food meat. Oh gosh, you open the can, it smells like cat food. It's no wonder parents will say, have you ever heard parents say, my baby won't eat meat? My kid won't eat meat? Well, based on that, why would they? It's like gelatinous. It's so gross.
This is such a good point you're making right now.
But if you take some really delicious homemade chuck roast, and it was not hard, a blender, just stick it in a blender, pour in some of the liquid fat, and the kids, they ate it up. But then, like I say, you get it's not really lazy. You just get a little smarter and more efficient the more kids you have, I think. By the third one, I had a carnivore friend named Margot, and she called her baby her cave baby. She's like, I am not pureeing meat. That was also her third kid. She's like, I don't puree meat for that baby. That's my cave baby. I just throw her a chicken leg or a rib or a thigh.
Oh,
yes. And put it there. And she said, if the baby is old enough to just pick it up, and I've got photos of Annie as my third, gumming on ribs. Oh my gosh. She loved it. It was definitely easier. And she didn't even have teeth. She had like one half of a tooth sticking out. But they can get it down.
Oh yeah, they can if they're hungry enough and they're craving it. So would you say that to get children, because I mean your children are mostly low carb, or they are low carb pretty much because you don't have any like sugars and candy and processed junk in their diet.
Right.
Like sort of ride the line of carnivore because they're more meat fat based. What would you say to some of these moms, because they're worried about like lactation, they're worried about kids liking the food? How do you introduce the food? Is it safe for the child? What kind of tips would you how to convince the kid or kids as they're getting old enough to rationally think that they are missing out. I know you just said that they crave it, but still, there's got to be curiosity when they're at parties and stuff.
I had it as easy as it's going to get, I think, for any mom, because I already knew all of this before having the kids. So they didn't have it. Somebody who has not grown up with a sweet tooth and having all of the candy, it's going to be so much easier for them.
Wow.
But I have had plenty of moms say, well, is it too late then? My kid's already like straight up a sugar addict. And I just encourage them, if there are any animal products, or at least, just any meat, I'll say, do they like omelets? Do they like cheesy, sausagey, bacony omelets? And they'll say, yeah, most kids will eat an omelet, right? So, okay, make a big one. Make it for breakfast.
I hated eggs when I was a kid. I did. I love them now.
But... Oh, okay. My kids love an omelet. My parents, the kids' grandparents, make a 3-egg omelet for each of the kids every sleepover they have. And they love it so much. And a lot of moms will say, yeah, they like an omelet, or, something like that. They like bacon. A lot of kids do like bacon. Then just get them to eat as much of that as they can, and then cut back on the junk as much as you can. It doesn't have to be teetotal one day to the next. Mommy says no. But if they're full of really nutritious foods, the idea would hopefully be that they're going to stop eating some of that. And also, I feel like, my gosh, I am paying for all of their food. They don't have jobs. They can't go to the store. They don't have a car. If it's in my house, I bought it. So that's on me. And I'm not, that might sound a little snarky, but I know you're okay with that, Stephanie.
What are you talking about?
I know you're okay with that.
Compared to me, yeah.
If it's in here, that's on me. And just because a kid throws a fit and a temper tantrum and says, but I really love Snickers bars, I'm sorry. I also wouldn't buy them crack cocaine. So there are a lot of things I don't buy for kids because it's not healthy. I don't let them drive my car or stay up till midnight. We have to make really hard choices sometimes, and explaining to them that this is not about trying to get you skinny, because my kids do not have a weight problem at all. That's not what it's about. It's not even for me about, oh, I just want to stay skinny. It's literally your body becomes inflamed and unhealthy and is more likely to develop diabetes and cancer and all types of health problems if I let you have these foods. So I'm not going to buy them because I love you. And if they start to experience how they can feel, I have let my daughter Annie and Julia try Doritos, and they felt like garbage. We were at a party, and I said to them, I said, listen, I'm not buying it. But if you want to try and see how you feel, it's got red dye in it. And my oldest daughter is definitely sensitive to red dye. She had to take an antibiotic one time. This is when she was 18 months old. She was the most darling little thing. Red dye is put in almost all children's antibiotics to make it pink, which is a crime.
Really?
Almost all antibiotics, liquid. It's pink. And so first time mom, I gave it to her. My sweet girl was on the floor screaming, temper tantrum, and throwing punches. I had never seen her like this. She had never had a full-blown temper tantrum. Wow. Again, she was 18 months old. That was just not her at all. So I called the doctor. I said, I don't know if it's because it's an antibiotic, or she said, well, now, she was very sweet, Dr. Shop. She said, a lot of kids do have red dye allergies. Then why did you put it in my baby's medicine? Wow. She said, we can't get it without the red dye. They won't mix it at the pharmacy any other way. She said there is one that you can get. So she switched the antibiotic, and she was perfectly fine. I think it was an ear infection. She finished out the medicine. It was fine. I'm not a big fan of antibiotics either, but she was okay on that. Point is, I know red dye can screw kids over. And so I let them experience it. And Julia, she's 11, so she's a little more, I guess, with it. She's like, I can feel it. She's like, I just feel kind of mad, a little like angsty. So, it can be fine to let them experience it too and figure it out for themselves. But if they've always, all day of their lives, had an attention issue and emotional problems, and they feel mad all the time, and a lot of kids do.
That's another question I have. Like, do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have one brother. He's 2 years younger than I am.
Does he have kids?
He has 3 children.
So
Yeah.
do you notice things like with your brothers, children, or friends, or people, or neighbors, or family members that have kids? Do you notice
Yes, but
the
not with my
behavior
oh,
when you're with with your
yeah.
kids and the other kids?
Yes, but not with my nieces and nephews because they are also no sugar, no grain.
Oh, there are you
Yeah.
influenced your brother?
It's awesome. So when my sister-in-law, when she makes a treat for the kids, if it has anything sweet to it at all, it'll just be some honey. And it's like a birthday cake, only sweetened with that. So
That's
she does such a good job. She is even more cautious than I am. She will not use a microwave. She does not, all of her clothing that they buy has to be like organic. So that comparison, her kids are awesome too.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a tough thing. I had a friend back in Los Angeles. She knows that I live near the Amish, and she's like, I want a mattress that doesn't have any plastics at all, and they all have plastics, even if they say they're organic, they don't have plastics. Can you have the Amish build me a mattress? I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
girl, I
Yeah.
was like, I am not even. I was like, I'm not living that reality because I'm living in an RV camper where half of everything is plastic. But I digress.
I
Anyway,
know. I just shop at normal stores. I do have a microwave. I do use it, and my mattress just came from a mattress store. So I'm not there either. But I'm just comparing as far as my kids versus my nieces and nephews. They are very similar. But teaching for 21 years, I definitely do see a difference in just. And there are some great kids up there who are eating carbs. I'm not saying that. I have taught some really cool kids.
are you still actively teaching?
I taught until December. I took
Okay.
an early retirement in year 21. Once you hit the 20-year mark in North Carolina, you can take another retirement. Thank you. So up until then, I was seeing hundreds of kids every week, and just in general, there's a lot of angst in children right now, and a lot of attention issues, and I dealt with it a lot.
You
Yeah.
dealt with it a lot. So let's say even when you're out, I guess, with your kids to like a restaurant or to the mall or anywhere where you're in public, do you actually have are you noticing other children's behavior that are in your children's age groups in comparison to yours? Do you notice that, or you just been doing it so long you don't notice anymore?
Yeah, I had somebody the other day in a restaurant pay for our entire meal because they said they had not seen kids that nicely behaved at a restaurant. Like,
That's amazing.
it's good. They are nice, but Stephanie, I can't say that much more. People are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, she's got to shut up about these kids."
No,
They
I'm
are nice.
asking. No, no, no.
They're
This is my channel, and I'm asking you the questions, and you're just obliging. And I think the thing is that I don't have kids, so I can go ahead and ask somebody who's been doing this lifestyle for a very, very long time, what it's like to be pregnant, what it's like to deal with the weight issues from post pregnancy, the children aspect, the family, like your mother and father-in-law, your own parents, and you being a teacher, and then people in general, because it's a conversation I don't think anybody ever has.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay away from like macros and like the numbers
Yeah.
and stuff like that in this conversation, and focus on something that I have no experience with. So I do have a client coming up soon, so I wanted to kind of hit the one subject, which is what made you decide to go higher in fat?
Yeah. This is exciting. So it's been 10 weeks for me. Prior to this 10 weeks, I was mostly eating just burger patties. Every once in a while, I would think, I think I want some butter on that. So I would add a little butter just for taste, is the only reason I was doing it. It wasn't because, like, oh, my body needs fat. And I was not personally having the struggles that I was seeing some other people have. But then I've been coaching now for a little over a year, and I was meeting with some people in New Jersey from my coaching groups face to face. You get into longer, more real conversations face to face, and
Were
some of
you
them
in
were.
Jersey? Or did they come down to you to visit?
I went up to New Jersey. I'm in North Carolina, so I flew up to New Jersey for a meetup with a whole bunch of group
Look
members.
at you. Okay, awesome. Go ahead.
And
Awesome.
Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, she's a longtime carnivore too. She was up there. It was her meetup. She was the one hosting it. And some of her group members were there too. And we're all talking, and quite a few were saying, you know what? I'm really struggling to lose weight. in my A1C, I've actually noticed it's gone up a little in the past year. Huh. Well, I'm going to definitely take note of that because, like, well, that didn't align with my experience. That's very interesting. But these are real people that I was looking at who were telling me I'm only eating meat, mostly burger patties, and that's what's happening. So that was like, all right, we got to figure something out. And Dr. Lisa had already started doing where she was spreading out protein in very small amounts throughout the day with large amounts of fat. And I was like, well, how's that going for you? She's like, I've actually lost some weight. And the reason she started it, she was already at a healthy weight because she'd lost weight on carnivore, but her A1C had gone up some too. She's like, I am not comfortable with it getting closer to 5.5 than 4.9. So she's like, I want to see it come down. That's why she started doing. So I was like, okay, I'm in. So as soon the day I got back, instead of having 4 burger patties for lunch and 4 for dinner, it was more like 4 for the day. That's where I started with this, and just spread them like 4 meals and adding lots of fat on top of that. And at first, there were some digestion woes. I'm sure you hear that from people at first. Like,
you don't have a gallbladder, right?
I don't. I was running to the bathroom. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fat. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. But it really, and I didn't end up taking anything to fix it. I know that you and I have talked about things that people could try, and you've talked about it to your audience a lot, but I decided to kind of just wait it out and stay close to home as needed. And it got better just on its own. It is. And now I think my digestion is actually better than even before I started, because I was not a person who went every day. And now I'm one of those people. I think, okay, that's pretty cool. Since we're going to talk about, poop and all. So that's different. And once I had some other group members.
Skin.
Yes. So I sent Stephanie a picture this morning, and I can pull it up here. My skin, I would have told you before starting this that I was very happy with skin, because prior to doing carnivore at all, I was having boils and was on Accutane for acne. So in comparison, I was like super happy with my skin. But this was before starting. This is no makeup, no filter, sunlight on my skin. So this is not flattering. I'll just go ahead and tell you. But it is what it is. This was before starting the high fat, and this is this morning. And what I see there, it's probably a little harder to see screen to screen to screen. But what I've seen is less dark patches on my skin. And even though I have lost several pounds since I upped my fat, and I upped calories in the meantime. By the way, I'm eating way more calories. I did lose several pounds, but to me, my face looks less gaunt instead of more gaunt. Whereas normally, if I lost weight, I would see it in my face and look like, oh, now my face looks a little less plump and healthy. So I'm feeling very happy about it. And I've had some group members who are feeling much better, but it didn't start because of me going, oh my gosh, I feel horrible. But other people saying that was enough to inspire me to then watch you, Dr. Bright, to do some reading on Finney and Volek. I took a course with Dr. Boz, and the more I kept reading, I was like, oh my gosh, why am I not adding more fat? Why am I just eating these burgers? It tastes good. So good. And then I heard you say 200, this was on the interview that you did with me, 200 grams of fat. And I went back and looked. I was like, oh, I'm still not quite there. So I have doubled down. I am well over 200 now, and I am feeling even better. So, and I've heard you say it takes 3 months to fully adapt. Yeah. But then I also, and when you first said it, it was in a chat. Somebody asked the question, how long does it take to fully adapt? And you just kind of rapid fire said 3 months, and you moved on. And I thought, I wonder where she got that from. But I've had it confirmed twice in the last 48 hours. Not that I was doubting you. It's just cool to hear it from other sources. Dr. Finney says that in his research, when people finally get into a high state of ketosis, it takes 12 weeks before inflammation markers drop. And I was like, 12 weeks? Well, that sounds an awful lot like 3 months. And then, oh gosh, who was the other one? Oh, on research done on epileptic children, which of course that's been going on with ketosis since like the 1920s. That's been like their primary way of helping seizures. They would say that even if you can get a kid into ketosis very quickly, it typically takes 3 months for the seizures to stop. So I'm not even to the 3-month mark yet, and I'm already feeling quite a few benefits. So I'm going to keep going with it.
I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool, and I think it's very admirable for you to reach out to me. And there's a whole guru sphere, and I'm more seen as a Simon Cowell of this whole thing. So for you to go ahead and reach out to me was very, very cool. So we could talk to each other. I appreciate this talk. And I didn't want it to be an interview, but I ended up sort of chiming in. I wanted you to just talk, but I guess you're not used to that. We're so much in the interview mode, but it was fun to have a dialogue with you anyway that ended up going back and forth. Yes. And she was showing me this morning the changes in her skin and in her face from, just upping the fat. So that's very, very cool. I appreciate your humility to say that on my channel. And I want everybody to realize that. And no, just thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, I knew to reach out to you as soon as I realized, oh my gosh, high fat. Why does that sound familiar? And so I went back and started watching some of your videos. I was like, oh my gosh, she's been saying this for years.
Yeah.
So I was so happy that I DM'd you, but I didn't even know if you'd see it. Sometimes you message and nobody writes back, and you did, and then we got to talk. So this is really cool. Thank you very much.
Plus, you did another thing like a year or two ago. You did something in reference to me and made a cute video. You were like
carnivore news, right? Like you had a birthday. And I was making these little news episodes, and I just put, oh my gosh, look at her. So I didn't really understand how you got to looking that way. I just knew you ate meat and you looked hot, so I put you on the carnivore news video. And now I understand better.
I suck at promoting myself. I'm like, I need to talk to Kelly because you're so good at it. I start to feel like that's where maybe Sarah got her was influenced by you, because I just noticed that like you have all these little fun things, and I'm just like,
you are so fun. You're rocking.
Yeah, I'm goofy, but like, you make it really fun. I like those things. I'd love to learn more, so I'm going to pay more attention. You make it fun. Even when you had like the carnivore news, I just think it's really fun. I think you're the only one who does stuff like that. So, you got to go tell everybody where they can find you so they can and check out what you're doing and keep updated with your journey into adding fat.
Thank you so much. My Zero Carb Life on YouTube. That's the main place. And on Instagram, Kelly_Hogan91. That's been my handle since before I was sharing anything about meat on there. So if you scroll back enough years, you'll just see baby pictures.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool too.
But a lot of baby pictures of babies eating meat, if you're into that. So
yeah, I think that'd be very cool to see that evolution. So if you just hold on, I'm gonna put you back in the green room and then like fade out of here. So thank you so much.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye. I'll see you in a sec. All right, guys. So I just want to say thank you to Kelly for this opportunity for us to talk to each other. I haven't talked to another guru or anybody in a very, very long time. I've been going through my move and all this kind of stuff. And for her to reach out to me, especially since I'm, I guess some people find me a little intimidating, is something very positive. We don't always share the exact same theology about everything, but the fact that she reached out to me is such a positive thing. And the fact that Kelly is introducing more fat into her diet is something also very beautiful. So I want to leave it with that so you guys can understand, like, my whole channel is now built around real people with real stories. And I really wanted to cover Kelly's experience as a mom going through this. That was the real highlight of this conversation, was a two-parter, one that, and then the other thing about adding more fat. But the fact that I don't have kids, and I think that if you kind of go to her social media and see the types of foods that she's eating and making for her children, I think it'll be really inspirational for you guys to figure out that you should probably try to get your children on board as well. She's not 100% carnivore. She rides the carnivore line. She adds a little bit of plant source foods in for her kids, but she's got them off all the junk. And that's what I think would be really great for you guys to go and check out her channels. So I want to say thank you again, and we're out. I'm out. Peace out. And I'm going to say goodbye to Kelly. So bye, guys. You can follow me on Instagram at Stephanie Ketogenic. My comment below, hit the all notification bell, go to Kelly's channel and subscribe. And also you can go to Stephanie the Business Person, or you can join my course page on stephanieperson.com, or sign up for a consultation. Why is my other notifications going off? I hate technology. And I'm out. Energy. Peace, guys.